Aaron Levine's showing off with his tie again.
What's a tie? I haven't worn that in a while.
Really, Art doesn't even care. He doesn't care at all. Art, how come you always get called just about last? Have you worked that out with Dave or something? What's up?
All right.
There we
Come on,
go.
John Boyle.
What's up, Michelle?
Sorry, I didn't want to step over the banter.
Yeah, really.
Pete, this will be obviously the first mock game coming up, first chance to kind of let guys run and hit a little. What do you need to see out of it?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on for this first game for us. We're doing everything that we can do to make it as game-like in terms of all of what it takes to get to the game. And that's all of the work that goes on in the locker room, pregame stuff, the pregame routines, on the field stuff to get ready, back in the locker room, the time frames. We're doing all those exactly like a game. Half times, 12 minutes, the whole thing, and coaches in the booth, all that. We're doing all that, so it's, as much as anything, this is really about procedural, approach and getting that thing knocked out. When you have 4 games, you have plenty of time to work that out, and so I want to make sure that we have this nailed here at home for sure, and so that's one of the big emphasis. Now, obviously, what we're going to do is we're going to get a really good test on the first couple weeks of work, and see who knows what, and see if guys are commanding their stuff on offense and defense, and the tempo and the exchanges that we make going in and out, substitutions, all that kind of stuff to make us really sharp game time when it comes up. Wednesday will be the next really big shot for us when we come back around and go to the stadium again. So this is kind of like the first preseason game for us and trying to get everything organized and get off to a good start.
And normally you guys would not do necessarily the special teams, the kicks, and the punts in a mock game, but without the preseason games, how do you get that work in?
Yeah, we're going to do all that. Yeah, we're going to take care of that. So our first groups will be getting to work with subs, and that's an important part of it. It's a lot of it is being comfortable with all of the changes that occur and the discipline and the routine of that. So that's all part of the expectations and getting knocked out this week.
Greg Bell.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
It is. Thank you. We saw yesterday your team coach announced no fans for the first 3 games. I think we all assumed that. But do you have any reason to believe that anytime this season you may have fans, something normal in the stadium?
Shoot, Greg, I don't know that. I have no information on how I would know that until the league makes a decision on allowing the states to talk about it and the clubs to talk about it. There's so many hoops to go through to get that organized. I don't have any information to help you on that. I think we're just waiting to hear what the word is. Sorry.
What tangible effect do you think it'll have for your team in particular? This is probably the biggest home field advantage in the league.
Well, we're going to do everything we can to make it as hyped as possible. In particular, for the fans that aren't here, I'm thinking that where you're watching the games at home, that this should be a demonstration of the 12 spirit on the home front, and I think you should get it jacked up as much as you can. I know that sounds crazy, but maybe we can tell, just from your energy and your juice from as you pass it along and how excited the 12s are, and you got to crank it up at home. I mean, I would think we should be a contest for best Seahawks look. Who's got the best blitz outfit going on in your living room. Best touchdown celebrations. I mean, all that. We should do it all and make it as fun as we can and pump it up. Be great in your neighborhoods if you could hear people cheering out the windows and stuff, and all that when we do our touchdowns and score our points and all that.
And sorry, one on the field. Philip Dorsett, he looks like he's running away from some of your corners and safeties. What element is he bringing that's a little new?
He's the fastest guy we've ever had here, Greg. He runs. Into the time realms we don't even think really exist. 4.2s and stuff, and in our system with Russ and the way Russ likes to bomb the football, he's a big factor for us. And matter of fact, we're just installing stuff in the next couple of days that really accentuate some of those kinds of plays, and I'm really anxious to see him fit in. Tyler's been phenomenal at that stuff over the past, and to have the complement really with all of that speed on the field at the same time, DK and Tyler and Philip, it's pretty dynamic, So, but he's done really well, and that's what you've seen. He's got behind us a couple times.
Bob. Yeah, hey Pete, we saw you pick up a quarterback off waivers the other day. Just curious where he fits in and what you thought of Anthony Gordon so far.
Anthony hasn't had a lot of work opportunities. He's picked everything up really well and smart as can be. But we're just looking for competition. That it's a little bit different. I'm feeling a little bit different. The sense of urgency of not having the 4 games when you have to get your third quarterback ready to play in those preseason games. It's a little different for us. So we're able to focus on the 1 and 2 more so. So it's a little bit of a change. But we just want to. We've thought a lot of Danny. We want to see what he looks like here on our field and see where he fits in.
And one more, you said the other day you hope to get Quentin Dunbar on the field today, but is that sort of the plan, and where, I guess, is he in his progression and all that?
I won't really know much until today, really, Bob, until we get him out there, but it's gone the way the trainers had planned it, and so we'll see where he is. And this will be the first time he'll move full speed since he's arrived. They've been building towards that after and around practice, so we'll see how it goes. I'll let you know more when I get it.
All right. Thank you.
Ben Arthur.
It's okay.
Hey Pete, how's Jordan Brooks doing? I know you talked about him the other day, but how's his going?
He's practicing today. He practiced some day before yesterday. Got some reps and surprises that he was able to bounce back. He's getting a pretty good number of plays today. Not quite a full load, but he'll be out there. So we just want to work him back in, make sure he's okay. It might have been a little more of a cramp than it was a tug, and a pull. And so we're keeping fingers crossed that he can do some good things today and is able to come back tomorrow and the next day. We'd like to really get him out there on Saturday if we can.
And then the second question I had, I know you've talked about Marquise Blair and transitioning him to the nickelback role, but from like a mentality standpoint, how have you seen him kind of hit another gear in year 2? And I think I was reading somewhere that he's put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, he really has pumped up. He had a great offseason, and that's such a good sign for a guy that's really tuned in and into it, wanting to make a statement, wasn't satisfied with what happened in his first year, all of that. He's one of our most aggressive players and toughest guys, and to get another guy on the field like that just adds to the dynamics of our defense, and so far he's done really well, and we haven't seen anything we don't like about him, and there's still more in the installation to come that will give him a chance to do more, and so I can't wait for every day as he keeps coming out. He's learning his stuff really well. He's not having any trouble at all. If anything would be suffering, really it might be more playing safety because he's focused so much on the nickel spot. But he still is in the running for all of that too. So, but we did emphasize the nickel stuff first and foremost. Nick Sorensen's really working directly with the nickels and helping those guys develop. And he's an exciting football player. And remember all the plays he made last year. Whenever he had a chance, he did some great stuff, and he in a real learning mode too. So this is going to be fun to see him go.
Thank you.
Brady.
Hey Pete, what's the balancing act like for cornerbacks in your system, where you're telling them every day, stay on top, but you also want them to take the ball away when the opportunity is there? What is that balancing act like for those guys? That's
a good ball question, Brady. You guys don't ask questions like that. In the defense, if teams can score fast and on long plays, you're not worth a darn. And so the responsibility comes to the guys on the back end, and it begins with the corners. They got to stay on top, and they got to take care of their business and give us a chance to make an opponent have to work their way down the field. So you can't play corner in our system because you can jump a route and make a play, and then the next play you get beat. It don't work that way. So our guys have to start and develop a real mentality for owning the deep ball, go balls, post routes, use their safety accordingly and all that. And then they work their way back, and when you play really good technique consistently, then you're available for the opportunities is kind of how it works. Meaning that if the quarterback's a hair late, the receiver tips off his route, changes the depth, and runs it a little early so you get a lead in on the break. And if you're playing really good, consistent principal defense, then you're available for the play that may come. Being physical always is the overriding thing that, the guy catches the ball, you make the hit, you can knock the ball out, whether you're breaking up a pass or whether you're forcing a fumble. And so that's part of it as well. Being in the right position in your zone so that when the quarterback errors and throws the ball over the top or thinks he's got you and he throws the ball and you're in total command of it, that's how they make their play. So I've not been one ever, with coaching DBs for a million years, it seems, that to make make guys think they have to make every play and stop every route. If you do that, then you get beat deep, and if you get beat deep, you're no good. So, our guys playing outside, they're playing the fade ball for Jody Allen and for the 12s and for everybody in the building. They're the only guys that can stop those things, and they've got to have the right mindset to get that done. I'm really anxious to see Quentin in the next week or so to see how he handles stuff. Technically, he's been coached up by guys who have been in our system, so that's a really big bonus. He knows all of our terminology, technique-wise, and so as he comes in here, he's just hearing it again, and so that's a really positive for us as we try to transition him. But we got to see what he's like. He's been a real instinctive football player and a playmaker, and so I'm hoping that shows up. We'll see how that works.
I guess along somewhat similar lines, with a
Just
guy
another
like
great
Shaquille,
question you're thinking of?
Yeah,
Okay.
even better maybe. A guy like Shaquille Griffin, who's going into the final year of his contract, is there ever any danger of a guy trying to, make money and overextend himself on certain plays when he's in the contract year like he is?
Heck yeah. Yeah, that factor of overtrying, the factor of trying too hard or trying to make things happen, when they're really not there, is one of the biggest faults in performance. I mean, it's not matching the opportunity with what's called for. You try to do things for the wrong reasons. And whenever you do that, you really make yourself vulnerable to giving up plays and making mistakes and errors and all that. So, and it doesn't matter what the factor is. You're talking about maybe it's contract year, maybe it's the last play, or maybe it was what happened in the game last week or whatever. Guys try to come back and do stuff, and whenever they get outside of how they've been prepared and the expectations of the position, and then sometimes they may make stuff up and try technically different things, you're making yourself vulnerable. So it's such a good question, because this is about trusting the preparation, trusting what you know about yourself, trusting the coaching that's come your way, trusting that you have a role to play for the guys on the field, the rest of the guys on the field and the team and all of that. All of that comes into play so guys don't over-try and they don't make stuff up and they don't play outside of themselves. It's when we try to be something that we're not is when we really falter and fail. So it's a really good question, because that's a huge part of performance.
Wow. 2 for 2, Brady. Art?
Dang. Why don't we just leave the Hollywood circle around Brady, see if he's got another one?
I'm going to retire on that one.
No, I mean, that's probably a safe bet. You wouldn't want to try to make a big play, and screw up.
A lot of pressure, Art.
Basket by RTO.
Yes. Get it to me in the low post. I'm great up to 6 inches.
The sweeping hook.
Sweeping
hook in the old form of Connie Durking.
George Mikan.
That's way back. None of these guys know who Connie Durking is, let alone George Mikan.
Zelmo Beatty.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
Yeah. In the absence of preseason games, what keeps you awake at night about building an offensive line that has at least 3 new starters and perhaps a 4th?
Well, the stuff that keeps me awake at night, I don't want to tell you about. There's too many of them. But really, this I know you're talking like the new starters and all that, but we're seeing guys that have started some football games and played a lot of ball too. So it's just a matter of time. It's a race against the clock, really, just to get them enough reps and get them in situations that can call for them to express whether they know their stuff or whether they don't, whether they can respond really well under the tempo of the game and make the right decisions so they use the right scheme and tactic and in identification, all that. It's just time. It's really what we're concerned about. So those guys, we're trying to keep those guys as together as we can and try to predict how it's going to turn out. But there's such good competition that they're making it hard on us. So if there's anything, it would be that there's competition at the spots that make us want to see other guys that keep us from getting the extra turns together in the same unit. So we're not calling it early, but there'll be we got 3.5 weeks right now is what we're looking at, and so. We're just trying to log as many minutes as we can. So that's really the part that we're concerned about. Can we get enough reps so that they can be ready for game time and they can really respond in game speed like they have to?
Nico.
Hey there, Coach.
Nico, you on a stoplight?
No, I'm
okay.
completely parked. I didn't make it home. I knew
we wouldn't want you driving and zooming at the same time. Yeah.
No. I pulled over.
There you go. Okay. might want to roll your windows up.
We can't hear you, Nico.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
Am I Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go.
Okay. Just I wanted to know, with everything that you mentioned, everything you got to get ready for, how much time is it going into finding those diamond in the roughs, those maybe new players that you typically would see during preseason games, and it's just easier to see them in those type of situations?
It's just a built-in issue, in this camp, in this format. It's a built-in issue for us that how can we determine and decipher the guys that that could do it on limited amount of attempts and not game reps as well. So, there's all I can tell you is we're talking about it every day and doing our evaluations and trying to put guys in situations, and it's already seemed to happen some. For instance, like we don't have any hesitation on Carlos Hyde right now. I mean, he already has shown us his movement and his instincts and his awareness and all of that. So we know the player that we've seen, there's no question there. The tough part is the guys who haven't played in the league. I think that's who you're talking about, the young guys. It's just more difficult for them, and so they've got to make, in their own effort, they've got to make a good splash, and when they get their chances, they really have to be on their stuff so that when they get the opportunity, they can make the play that's available and not miss their chances. So it's kind of like pinch hitting a little bit. You got to get in there and get your cuts, and hopefully you get a base hit. And they got to make some plays as they get their shots, which puts the pressure on them, which takes us back to the question of over trying, and trying to make something happen that isn't there. So this is a difficult situation, and hopefully, we're going to use a lot of our instincts and go from our gut feeling on guys. John and I have already talked about how we got to do that, and we're going to have to determine a lot of stuff out of maybe a little bit of information. And so, hopefully everybody will contribute in a good way. We'll make good choices on that. And I hope the guys get their chances. I want everybody to get their shots to show what they can do.
And going back to that offensive line real quick, I wanted to know one that a little bit better.
Okay, Michelle, interpret that. Ask it again, Nico. It cut out.
I'm sorry. I wanted to know, with all those new faces in the offensive line and all the changes there, how much more of an importance does that make for a guy like Dwayne Brown and what he does, knowing your system and everything?
Yeah, it certainly does. We lean on the leadership more so than ever. They got to take guys under the wings. They got to have lunch with them. They got to talk it through, and they got to look after them more so. Even to the point where Dwayne gets fewer reps, so other guys can get turns because we know he knows what he's doing. Same with Mike Upati. He's helping us out. B.J. Finney's had more experience than some of the other guys. Brandon Shell is a guy where we think what we've seen on film has shown up already. We think we got a pretty good evaluation on him already. That helps us, but it is a calling. This whole thing is a calling for everybody to work together. It's for being a great teammate, and that means you're helping others do well. And so, more so than ever, in an accelerated pace, with less opportunities, all of that is really what we're dealing with. It's relative across the board. All the teams are the same. I don't think you're going to notice a difference, but it's likely that some guys are going to be missed. There's players are going to be missed through the process, and the older guys can really help us.
Curtis.
Hey, Pete, just kind of curious how Colby Parkinson's coming along. How close is he? And then also Stephon Sullivan there at the tight end spot. How they
Colby's doing everything. He's ahead of schedule. They're excited that he's going to make a return here before camp's over. But that's really all I got for you. He's doing everything's working out quite well according to, and he's really tolerating all of the workload. So that's really good. Steph has really done some good stuff for us. We've been really excited about his work. He shows the catching skills that the wide receiver background brings. So it is a project for us to teach him, how to be on the line of scrimmage and what he can do there. He's played there some, but not a lot. So that's Pat McPherson's job to try to figure out how to catch him up. But he's a really nice athlete, and I really like the pick that we made. He looks like he fits.
Joe.
Is it more important without preseason games to go more best on best, both in practices and in your scrimmages you have? Another
good. You guys are. You're just not just sitting home watching Bob Barker or something. Yeah, that's a good observation. It is, and where they won't get the game time, in second game, third game of the preseason, we got to get it out here. So our guys are going against each other more than normal, And we like our ones against ones anyway, but they are getting more reps just so that they're playing at the most competitive, opposition we can give them.
Last question, Chris Branch.
Hey, Coach. I want to go back to Dwayne a little bit. We're going to hear from him here. You've always had great leaders. How special is his leadership, especially in terms of the offensive line?
He's a unique leader. He's just a unique person. He's really got his act together. He's really serious about his craft. He's got a really good brain, just figuring things out in the world, and got a good perspective and all. I mean, you ask him anything, and he just can handle himself really well. So he's got good skills in how to deal with people, communicating. Has good sense and awareness. I go to him all the time, asking him questions about how things are going. What's the tempo like? Does it feel good? Are we doing the right stuff to get the best out of us? I mean, I lean on him all the time, and it's because I just think he has such a good perspective and all. So he's very valuable to us.
Okay, thank you. Dwayne's coming right up.